Welcome to Regent Park TV. My name is Nia. Today we are going to interview an award-winning filmmaker, documentarian, and producer, Lalita Krishna of In Sync Media. Welcome to the show, Lalita.
How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the show, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. In the beginning, I know that you have a close relationship with Regent Park TV, so I would like to know from you how it started and the movie you were working on the project.
Yeah, so I have, first of all, Regent Park and Focus it's very close to my heart. It's kind of embodies all of the principles and visions that, I believe leads to better media for everyone, a better future for everyone. So when I was doing a lot of my documentaries, a lot of them focused on bringing about change in different parts of the world, especially change initiated by young people. And a lot of my films took me to the continent of Africa, where I traveled into many different countries, talking about many of the issues, girls' rights, child labor. AIDS was a big piece of that point in time, probably still is. And looking at how it affects young people, what they're doing, and very often there was a Canadian connection. And then I realized that there's a lot of initiatives in Canada, and I should begin attention on those. So I did a photography project in one community, so I was like, how can you bring about change in communities through the arts? So we did photography, we did music, and then film and TV. And that was the focus of our documentary, which is called Shooting for Change, and it focused entirely on focus at that time.
What was it about the Shooting for Change that interested you?
Well, I think it was the whole history of why it started, which is basically taking charge of your own stories and being the arbitrators of what you want to tell and how you want to be projected in the media. Because I think all too often, youth particularly hit the media and headlines due to negative news stories. And I think it's really important, especially for racialized communities, to take charge of that and change that media, and for us to see positive role models. So I think by having this documentary on which shone the limelight on Focus and the program here, it actually showed how stories come to being, how the program works, and I think it's a very inspiring story.
Wow. What kind of stories do you look for?
For me, it's always been a passion. Girls' rights is universal girls' rights, and just in terms of talking about that around the world, but also connecting that to Canada, because I think sometimes we have this north-south divide in terms of thinking things are better off here than they are otherwhere, and Western countries seem to think they have the answers and they are the model, and I think there are some terrific initiatives all over the world, and I think girls can be empowered no matter which part they're in. Quite often in many countries, the issue is poverty. And I think we need to understand that, because sometimes we put a religious slant to something or a cultural slant to something. In those countries this happens, or this part of the world this happens. That's not necessarily true, because there is something else at work. Sometimes it's politics, it's government, not different from ours. And poverty, it does create a structure and a hierarchy, and unfortunately girls and women fall right down to the bottom.
Exactly. What kind of issues, like we always talk in Africa and the Middle East, India, issues of course related to poverty, but also like women to make their own decisions, like their rights, living without the control or the authority of someone else. What kind of issues Canadian women or North American women could be sharing? Although I know that it's different communities, yeah. But in general, what topics or issues could we talk about when we're talking about?
Well, I just did a film on domestic violence prior to this one, and it is really interesting to see the rate of domestic violence in Western societies. I mean, this, incidentally, is what got me into Bangla Surf Girls when I was working on that film, which was about a Canadian, now human rights activist in Canada, Rumana Manzoor, who was brutally attacked by her husband, and her eyes were gouged out, so she became blind. And, but it is a survivor story. It's about what happened after. She did that, but she wasn't going to let that determine her future because she's still young. So she's actually gone on to qualify to become a lawyer. She's a human rights lawyer now. She's working in BC. And it's her story, but we also talk about two other women who are in different stages of her life and how marriage and relationships, domestic relationships, affect a woman's life in different parts of the world. And I think that is very Canadian too. I mean, we shouldn't forget that the number of women who are turned away from homeless shelters, I think the staggering numbers in Canada. So we actually created a website to bring back that story to Canada and make people understand these are the statistics in Canada. I'm not talking about another country here. This happens right here. So when you see the statistics, you're like, oh yeah, okay. And then you say, what? In Canada? Really? Because for some reason, we don't pay attention to this. And we also talk about the economic cost of that. By not paying attention to this, what is it costing us? What is that cost? We could have built 2 more subway lines in 3 years if we didn't spend that money in all the costs that are associated with domestic violence, in terms of rehabilitation, in terms of managing, in terms of all the community support that we have to provide.
Mm-hmm. That's right, yeah.
Your latest film, Bangla Surf Girls, is screening at HotDocs Film Festival. Could you tell our audience what is the film about?
So Bangla Surf Girls is an inspiring story about the resilience of 3 girls who join a surf program in their local community in Bangladesh. And these are 3 girls who normally peddle trinkets around in the beach. Many of us would have seen them, in tropical countries where young children as young as 7 even would be selling these kind of goods. And when they join the surf program, they discover freedom and get one with the waves and, the fun and joy and also being with other friends. And it teaches them some sense of possibility of what they can do with their lives, of what could be the future for them, escape from the drudgery of daily, they have to cook at home, they have to clean the clothes, they have to pretty much manage their households, which are with lots of children because their parents are working and yet they're not able to feed all the kids. And suddenly a whole new future opens up to them and they can dream that maybe they can do something different from what their mothers did, what their grandmothers did, what their aunts did, what their sisters did. And so this is the story about how they have to fight all the obstacles that are thrown their way one after the other. And, you have to see the documentary to know what happens in the end.
আমি যখন গেছি 8:50 হয়েছে তাই স্কুল শুরু হয় 10টায় তাহলে আরো অনেক সময় আছে না তবে তো স্কুলের আগে গেছি জাতীয় সংঘর করার আগে গেছি না যাওয়ার সময় নুরিসনকে লক্ষ্য দিলাম মাঝে মধ্যে মনে হয় না কিছু থেকে কি করে ফেলে আল্লাহ জানে
Working with documentaries is like the investigator in some way. You start with a story, but then the events happen in a different way, and you end up with a completely different event. How do you deal with this as a filmmaker?
So this is really interesting because, I've been making documentaries for, 20 years, I think now. It's a long time. And it's that's what fascinates me about the genre of documentaries. When you do a fiction piece or drama, you have a script. And you tell the actors and you follow the script. You have lots of challenges, no question. But in a documentary, you kind of get in because you think the story is interesting. There is something happening here that I want to follow. you never really know what's going to happen.
I did have a director's dream, which really we wanted the story arc, or how should I say, I really wanted to go it that way. But when it wasn't going, it was also a learning process for me as a filmmaker, that how I commit myself to follow them, to evolve, like let's let the story evolve. Like, I'm not going to manipulate. And Lalita and I, we both were kind of, you go in and out of frustrations, but it was also a learning process that no, if that's not going to happen, that's also a story. The story doesn't need to be always like, happy, nice ending. It's, not everyone is the winner, but not everyone is the loser. Like, exactly. we don't give up.
That's exactly what happened with this one. This is really an immersive observational doc. I worked with Elizabeth Costa, who is a local Bangladeshi filmmaker based in Dhaka, which is the capital of Bangladesh. And she was the one who actually pitched me the story. And she said, she talked about this experiment in some ways, where these young girls had joined the surf club, and she said, what's going to happen? I want to follow them. And I said, let's follow them for a year and see where it takes us, because in 1 year we'll know how they do. And then she said, there's going to be a competition at the end of the year, and then maybe they'll take part. And so that was our trajectory, but it became something all the way through, something different. Mm-hmm.
What are the struggles that you had on shooting, editing, or working on this film in general?
It's really interesting. I have been in, I've shot all over the world and have had many situations where we've had to take a lot of precautions. We've had permits for filming, and you can't just set up a camera and just film and then, we're in public. We never encountered any of that in Bangladesh, strangely. I think it had a lot to do with the trust and that was built. Elizabeth actually went and lived in the slums and worked with the community, but she also immersed herself there, and she stayed with them for a while to build that trust. So people sort of got used to seeing her.
I must say the first difficulty was to, get inside, access. Yeah. It's hard because people come and go in their life and make promises, right? And then those promises are not kept. I am still their friends. I'm still like, we talk to each other, and every year I celebrate my birthday with them. I mean, this year I couldn't. But it's that level of trust, and from the family, even from the family, it needed time. It needed that patience, and there were also dilemmas. Sometimes it's just how, when I'm trying to tell a story, it's a lot is happening, which one to shoot and which one, and then I put myself in it, because when you ask teenagers a question, you will only get yes and no, and nothing else.
We're dealing with teenagers. So they would be rebellious. Sometimes there were other things that happened too, which is suddenly they'd say, I'm not going to talk to you today. They don't want to participate. And what are you going to do? These things happen.
And also filming in a slum, low light situation, and I had to do the sound on my own. So it was kind of one-woman army.
But every day is a challenge. There's weather as well, which, the rain or something else. And, we were dealing with nature, because sometimes you've got, you're dependent on the surf and the water and things. So you'd plan everything. You'd have all the right lenses and your long, your drone, everything is ready for surfing, and then you don't get waves.
Apart from those, I wasn't harassed. I was filming in a really difficult zone, definitely. Some of the slum houses who had, even I filmed one day, there was someone murdered the other day. So, I always made sure that, someone is there, and the locals were really helpful, surfers were really helpful.
But in terms of the story itself and how to deal with it, we just rode with it. It took 3 years for us to film, not the 1 year that I had anticipated, and we kept with it. And it was at the point when a particular incident happened, we said, okay, this is where we are going to stop, and this is going to be the end of our film. It was a very collaborative process. So Elizabeth was filming, we'd talk on the phone, she would tell me, this happened.
And yeah, I'm glad, I'm grateful to the team in the post that how we all, managed together and tried to tell the bold stories.
মানে ফাস্ট ফুড যে এরকম একটা জিনিস আমি জানলাম আমি মনে করি কি এরকম জানা আমাকে বলছিল ওরা একটা শেষ হলে আরেকটা বানিয়ে কি বানাতে পারবে ফাস্ট ফুড সেগুলো আমি বুঝি না
But the other part of it was, it's really interesting because we were in a public beach most of the time. And other than the curiosity of people coming, which they were coming anyway because they were seeing these girls surfing, they were curious about that. So the crowds kind of form anyway. But I'm not sure that they really cared about the fact that we had cameras and became because of that. We also, by the way, when we shoot with a very small unit. Because of that, we had no problems with regard to access.
Cox's Bazar is the longest sand beach in the world, and it's just never ending. It's really long, and it has a beautiful nature and contrast in it. The Cox's Bazar tourist area is booming, like more and more people are coming, and not only for work, for tourism, yeah, and Bangladesh's whole district people, I must say that from all other districts, they come to Cox's Bazar.
আমার ফ্রেন্ডদের সবাইগুলো চলে আসে আমারটা আসে না
When I was filming, the first thing that came in my mind is that no one went deep inside their life. No one has seen these girls. Because when I went to their house first, I saw their expression, and when I went with them in the beach, I saw their expressions too. How these two is so contrast, like how these two actually make an impact in their life. This same girl coming from that slum is actually has a smile on her face. You wouldn't even know what is behind what's happening in their personal life.
The people who are running these kind of programs, I think there's really important to see that in a role model, because young people see that someone who is coming to you as a teacher and then see them also as someone that they want to become. So I think it was really important because while the surf program is run by Rashid, who is a great role model, he was a brother to all of them, for everybody in the program, Elizabeth was the sister. She was the Apu, as they call her, the sister, whom they could sort of imagine themselves being. They saw her, walking around with a camera, much like you, going around filming, and they said, look at that, she's young, she's confident, she is independent, and that's whom I want to be.
So I really wanted them to tell this story, whether they're comfortable. And I was like, I mean, I must say, I was lucky to, like, they say they want to tell their story to the world. So I really wanted definitely the world to see this. I feel like this is an international film by connecting people with their dream.
So I think there are, at many levels, there's so many things that people can learn from this. There's a universality of this documentary, is I hope a message that will get translated and transferred.
Who do you think should watch this movie and why?
It's a universal story. I think Bangla Surf Girls will resonate with young and old. It'll resonate with people around the world, because at the end of the day, it is the story of the underdog. It is a story of girls. It is a story of resilience. It's a story of the spirit of, fighting, of wanting to achieve. And it is also a story of informing people about the conditions of what is life like in another part of the world that we're not necessarily all familiar with, and the conditions that people go through. So I think it is very much a universal story. I think particularly young people will relate to the film. I think girls will relate to the film. I think it has its funny moments, it has its laughter, it has girl power. It's certainly a film of the human spirit and about endurance and resilience.
এটা আমরা হাঁটুবারের নিচে বলতেছে ভাই আমরা সাঁতার জানি না আমরা মরে যাব।
To newcomers to HotDocs Film Festival, how do they see this film?
So HotDocs it's going to be an online festival this year, unfortunately again. Typically, though, in a real festival, there would be many theaters around. Toronto is abuzz with HotDocs, and everybody can go and watch it and get tickets. And there's also school screenings. But this year, because it's online, you can go online to HotDocs, and then you can select this film, Bangla Surf Girls, and then there is tickets available. For Regent Park community, though, there is a special offer. If you go to Regent Park Film Festival, I know that they have got passes, that they're giving free passes to a certain number of people. So if people are interested, they can certainly contact Regent Park Film Festival and ask for a free ticket. And hopefully everybody who watches the film will also vote, because I think it's really important to cast a vote.
Oh, thank you so much. That's amazing.
Feel free to contact me once you've seen it. If you'd like to have, a private screening or a special screening, we'd love to do that. We are hoping to do a big impact campaign to later on in the year, maybe when things open up, to be able to do something to support the girls, because we are hoping that they will move on with their careers, because obviously with COVID, it's put a stop to the progress of their futures as surfers in that community for now. But moving forward, I hope it will continue and that they can realize their dreams.
Yeah. And for everyone out there, catch Bangla Surf Girls online
At HotDocs Festival online this year at www.hotdocs.ca from April 29th to May 9th.
Thank you very much, Lalita, for your time and for coming with us here today.
Thank you, and don't forget to watch Bangla Surf Girls and cast your vote.
And thank you everybody for watching.
Please do not forget to like, comment, and share to our channel. Follow us on all our social media platforms. And for more information, please check out our website.